Welcome to Feeling Asian, a podcast where two Asians talk about their feelings. I'm Youngmi Mayer.
And I'm Brian Park. And whoa, we have a hot episode for you all.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to talk about everything with our guest this week. We have a running joke. We're always like, when we have like super famous, successful people on the podcast, we're like, oh my God, this is the best person we've ever had. But I truly feel like this is the best guest we've ever had. No offense to our former guests. Yeah.
And we actually mean it this time. But listeners, you all know how to read. You already know who's going to be on the podcast this episode. Youngmi, I think we should just introduce them. How does that sound?
Yeah. Let's get the ball rolling.
Let's get the ball rolling. Listeners, you are in for an absolute treat. Your guest this week is an actor who most recently is you may have seen in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Listeners, please give your ears to Huy Quan.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Youngmi, thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you. The honor is all ours. How was that introduction?
It was great. Oh my gosh, I'm so flattered. That was very sweet of you guys. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I think Brian's looking for criticism. He's like, I messed it up, didn't I?
No,
wow.
It was great. It was great. Yeah, I'm very flattered. Thank you.
I'm trying so hard to act normal right now, Brian. Can you tell?
Yeah, you're being. I feel like you're being quite overcompensatory right now. See, normally Youngmi is bouncing off the wall and quite chaotic, but this is the most mild-mannered and just polite you have been.
Well, I'm just so excited. And you know, obviously, we've seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm sure all of our listeners have seen it as well, and it's quite literally changed my life. And we're so excited to talk to you and just about your entire life in general. But before we begin, Brian, I want to ask you, how are you feeling?
Okay, so let's keep this tight, but I have a response prepared because I wrote in my journal today. So this is a new practice that I've implemented this week, is writing in a journal. And Youngmi, funny enough, you mentioned on this very episode that I was looking for criticism, and no, it's all connected. It's all going to come together. So lately, I have been feeling like I've allowed the self-critic in my head get the best of me, and I really dislike it. And I've noticed how I have been hurtful to people around me, whether it's my partner or my family and friends. And I would say this is probably the biggest personality flaw of mine, in that even like seemingly innocuous questions of like, oh, where did you get that shirt, or how's it going? I read too much into things, and I assume that people are thinking the worst. And it's a pattern of behavior and like a thought cycle that I've dealt with for most of my life, but I've just noticed just how cagey and irritable and agitated I get. Like, you know, like just to use the earlier example, it's like, oh, where'd you get that shirt? My brain will immediately think like, oh, they're asking because this is like a dumb shirt. Like, obviously, it's not that complicated, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I've been quite a grump and just really agitated, and I'm glad. I feel really glad that I can name it now, but I just gotta put an end to it. I don't know. I mean, to keep things topical and relevant to the film, in many ways I feel like Jobu Tupaki and just so cynical, and I don't know. It's just the self-critic in my head is just taking a hold of me, and I'm trying my best to let go of that and give people the benefit of the doubt. And putting this all because I've identified it, I'm writing it in a journal just to make sure let's see how frequently this comes up. And yeah, that's just something I've been dealing with, but I don't know. I'm glad I'm able to talk it out and really put a name to it, because I think it'll be helpful for me going forward. But yeah, sorry to keep be a bit of a bummer, but that's just how I've been feeling and what I've been dealing with these days.
Honestly, that's a very common thought process of mine too. And I always think that people are thinking the worst thing, whatever they say, and then I spiral about it. And it's, and like I feel like I have to like have these moments every few months to like be like, oh, stop doing that, and like try to like reset that, because it gets really bad. But like I had I had a comedy show last night, and I was like, everyone thought it sucked, everyone hated it. And then I was like in a bad mood because I thought it was bad, and then everybody was like, no, that was great, that we had so much fun. And I was like, really? Like, and then I was like, why am I like not letting them have their real opinions? Do you know what I mean? Like, why do I have to impose this negativity on them or something? So I totally understand that.
Yeah. No, it's thanks for sharing that. You know, it feels nice to know that I'm not like the only one going through these things. But I don't know. I mean, how are you? Yeah, but how are you feeling, Youngmi?
Well, well, before I say how I'm feeling, can I just say, Brian, that I think we've talked about this before, but I think that I always assume people think I'm like bad or what the worst thing that's like what I assume, right? Sure. And then I feel like it's sometimes I snap into reality, and then I'm like, oh no, like people probably see me for my genuine nature, you know, like my genuine emotions. Like people don't all hate me or think I'm crappy, or if they say, you know, where'd you get your shirt, they like my shirt, and I don't have to always like be so, what's the word, like not doom and gloom, but just like Eeyore, like from the Winnie the Pooh, you know, like yeah. Sometimes it's like helpful to see myself from like a stranger's perspective or something. I don't know.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah. But I'm sorry that you're feeling like that, Brian. I'm glad that you're journaling. Sounds like it's helping.
Yeah. No, I think it's helping. Yeah. I'm optimistic. I'm ready for this new chapter.
Were you criticizing Brian, were you criticizing yourself that you criticize yourself too much?
I don't know. That's I don't know. At that point, I'm just like turning it on myself. But yeah, I don't know. It's okay. I'm just you know, we can change. That's the beauty of humanity.
That's true. I guess how my feeling is. I mean, I know that I keep, you know, I really want to talk about this movie and I want to move on to talking to Key. But I also feel like since I saw the movie, I feel like it's like shifted my mind perspective, and I'm like in this great mood. And I'm, you know, like I said, I'm never really in a good mood. I'm like always miserable. But like since I saw the movie, it's like really helped me, and it's like really like inspired me to be like, see, you know, like sort of revisit ideas that I had always in my life, and like freshen up my perspective, I think. And I was like thinking about how I was feeling for the podcast, obviously, earlier today, and I was like, I think it's ever since I saw the movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, it like really shifted things for me. So I have been in a good mood for the last few weeks since I saw the movie. So I'm feeling great.
I love that. I mean, we talked about it before in our discussion with Stephanie, but you know, this film is, it's the messaging is just so optimistic and hopeful, and I just want to stress that it feels like a breath of fresh air, because so much art these days is just so nihilistic, and I feel like quote unquote good film is always like, this is the reality, like look how bleak it is, like this is the world we live in. Feel it. It's dark. But you know, this Everything Everywhere All at Once it's a salve. I loved it, and similar to you, I feel like I've been carrying the optimism of that film into my work and my art, and even as evidenced today, like just into my personal being, and you know, it's all good things.
Yeah, and my plants, my new plants are making me feel really great, as I've been bringing up every episode. Yeah,
but
that's how I'm
you know, enough about us. Key, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's been incredible ever since our movie came out. Uh, wow, it's it's hearing and reading all those wonderful comments from the audiences. It's
Mm-hmm.
been really heartwarming.
Wow. So you read the comments then?
Yeah, I mean, I have a big family. I have a lot of friends, and everyone's reached out, and
Aw.
they would send me this, they would send me that.
Mm.
And it's just, I mean, honestly, because I stepped away from acting for so long, more than
Right.
20
Mm.
years. And I was really afraid in the beginning because I didn't know what the audience would think. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? The last time they saw me up on the screen was when I was a little kid. I'm
Yeah.
Right.
only known for, if everybody talks about me, they think of, Short Round in Indiana Jones or Data from the
Mm-hmm.
Goonies. And that
Mm-hmm.
was more than 35 years ago. So yeah, I didn't expect, I didn't know what to think. But they have been so generous, and they have embraced my return with such wonderful, it's a great feeling, and I'm really happy. I'm in a very happy place.
Mm. Yeah, something so interesting and cool about art, like what Brian said, it's like a very positive film. And, how it inspired me to like sort of shift my perspective. And it's like this really cool thing where you make something, like you did, and then you feel this happiness, and then we receive it and feel happiness. That's like such a cool, interesting feeling, I feel.
Yeah, I'm really happy. The audience is really responding to our movie. I mean, it was a little movie that we did before the pandemic.
Mm.
And I'm so grateful to A24 for believing in it,
Mm.
and waited until when it was the right time, when it was safe to go back to the movie theaters. And now people are able to enjoy it in the movie theater. And it's really a movie that needs to be enjoyed with your friends and family and your
Mm-hmm.
community. So yeah, it's I've been very emotional in the last couple of
Mm.
months.
Oh, I love
Mm.
that. And I mean, most importantly, I love that you're feeling so much joy and you're able to relish in this moment because it's tremendous and so well deserved, and your performance is incredible in the film. But as you mentioned before, as you just mentioned, that your career was, it's quite interesting in that you did take a break from acting, and that sort of lends us to our first question in that, Key, whether you're aware of it or not at the time when you were, younger, like you really did pave the way for Asian representation from your appearances in Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones and The Goonies. And, although your original love in this industry was for acting, you transitioned to a career more behind the camera because there simply weren't enough roles available for Asian men in America. And so, I guess prior to Everything Everywhere, what was it like to see films like Crazy Rich Asians and The Farewell being produced in the last 5 years or so?
It was what I wanted to see for many, many, many years.
Mm.
It just didn't exist before. A lot of the scripts back then. In fact, if you were to stack 100 scripts and go through every single one of them, there was a high probability that none of them would feature any meaningful Asian characters.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that was what it was like back then. I know
Yeah.
because in fact, I auditioned for a lot of roles that didn't even have a character name, and it was only two
Wow.
or three lines. And if we were
Mm.
lucky, we would be featured in 2 or 3 pages. And to go from
Mm-hmm.
that to what we have seen and witnessed in the last few years, it's an incredible feeling. Where you have shows like Fresh Off the Boat, a primetime television that
Mm.
lasted 6 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
The phenomenal
Mm-hmm.
success of Crazy Rich Asians, uh, Farewell, like you said, Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, Turning
Mm-hmm.
Red, and now this Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's incredible. It's amazing how far we have come, and this was what I wanted for the
Mm.
longest time, and it's finally happening. I know there's a,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more work to be done, but I'm so optimistic to where things are going.
Yeah. It feels like all it feels like there are like steps being taken with all the films in the past recently, and then I feel like this film just like kicked the door down. We were just like trying to open the door like a little bit, but it was like we're here. I wanted to say something. I've been a big fan of yours for a very long time, and as a child your films were like some of my favorites, and your characters were some of my favorites, and I was just like, I think I recently watched Indiana Jones with my son, and I was just like, I just like remembered how great of an actor you are. Like, even as a child, you were just astounding. And so when I did read about your, your career in acting and how it sort of stalled because of the lack of roles, I was just like sort of blown away, because I was like, you're told that in that industry, if you are talented, you will make it, right? Like a lot of people are like, well, they think that we as a marginalized community use that as an excuse. But anyone watching those films that you were acting in could clearly see that you're an extremely talented actor, and then the roles just weren't available.
For many years, I when you're really young, you don't have the maturity to really process everything that was going on at that time.
Yeah.
When I was really lucky, and I'm so grateful to Spielberg and Lucas. I mean, those were really two amazing roles, and they were really the first one to put an Asian kid in a prominent role in the biggest movie in 1984. That's never been done before. So it was, when I was growing up, it was natural for me to think that I would have this amazing career as an actor,
Right.
And as I got older, and it got progressively more and more difficult, I started to think, I started blaming myself. I thought I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't good looking enough. I wasn't talented enough. Maybe I wasn't as good as an actor. And especially it's hard because I don't fit the mold of what a leading actor should look like. And so it was, so I thought I just didn't have it, to make it in the business. And even though it was something that I love to do, and when you are in your early 20s and all you do is just sit around and wait for that phone call to ring, not for an offer, but an opportunity to audition for a role, it was tough. So, I mean, honestly, it's, I don't want this to be a downer. I mean, this was what it was like back then. That was the reality. Now, I want to fast forward to where we are now. And I mean, here we are talking about everything, everywhere, all at once, which is incredible,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say that I think it's really inspiring, and for you to handle this entire moment and all of this buzz surrounding your performance in this film with so much grace and humility, because it's almost this tragic irony that you were so ahead of the curve. You were so ahead of your time. Like you've always known, it sounds like you've always known that these stories were possible. Like you were a champion for representation even before like the topic of representation was a buzzy thing in the industry. And it almost feels like sweet vindication that you're finally getting your comeuppance, but for you to exercise this level of humility is, I think it's really inspiring, because I don't know if I would be the same if I were in your shoes. If I were in your shoes, I would probably be like, well, fucking finally, like a big F you to everyone. Like I've been here,
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, because I love movies, and I would always go to theaters to watch movies. And honestly, Hollywood makes great movies. They make great movies, and every time I watch a movie, and I always fantasize about being in the leading role. And I always wonder how come they don't write it for us? How come they don't, how come it can only be, how come it's always only for one group of people? Why couldn't they put an Asian actor, in this or that? Why does
Right.
and it was a question that I asked myself all the time, and I didn't have an answer for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now here we are. We have an answer for, and it's
Yeah.
okay. It works. Back then it was
Yeah.
like oh, you can't because it doesn't. It's not good for business. People don't want to see an Asian actor in a leading role. Well, Crazy Rich Asians proved that wrong when they cast
Yeah.
Henry Golding in that
Yeah.
amazing, wonderful romantic lead. What about
Yeah.
Right.
Shang-Chi? What Simu Liu did with Shang-Chi and Marvel, recognizing, the time calls for that. It's very heartwarming, and we're living in a very exciting time, but we're
Yeah.
also living in a very chaotic time too, because of what's
Mhm.
happened in the last couple of years.
Right.
And I really love the message that our movie puts out, especially with Waymond, about treat
Mm.
each other with love and kindness and respect and empathy. And if we can have that, then we can understand that anything can be possible.
Right. I really like that you brought up the thing about the watching somebody on screen and wanting to be that role, because I think all my life, I know it's getting way better very quickly for the younger generation, but like all my life, I feel like something that I would hear commonly if I had a friend that was like an actor, or even just like a friend that wasn't in the industry and they were white, they would be like, oh, I wish I had that role. Like they had a fantasy, like, oh, I wish I played that role in this movie or this play. And I was like, I don't even feel like I'm allowed to think that, because I would never get hired in that. Like, I was like, I've never even thought of that, because how would they're not going to cast me in the Titanic, because I mean,
Right.
obviously that's a period piece. I don't think there's any half Korean people on the Titanic, but they're not going to cast me in The Notebook. Like, I wouldn't even dare to go into that fantasy. But then when I was watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, I was like, that would be, oh my God, this character, Joy, I was like, that would be like really fun. And like, that I could even be allowed to even have a fantasy was like what I felt when I was watching the movie.
Yeah. That's what it was like when when I was young and I would hear about, projects in development
Yeah.
or about to go into production.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It never crossed my mind that I can go on audition for the leading role. It never crossed my mind.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You're not even allowed to want
Exactly.
that or
That's
something.
why I
Yeah.
brought that up, is because that's exactly what you touched upon, is that, we automatically we think we're not going to be the lead. So
Right.
all
Yeah.
other characters in the movie that features Asians, not the second lead, not the third lead.
Yeah.
How about the fourth or the fifth or the sixth or the seventh?
Right.
Yeah.
And
And it doesn't even matter that you're an amazing actor, because you're like a brilliant actor. That doesn't, and people are always like, oh, well, if you're a better actor, then you're going to get the role. And that's just, obviously it's not true.
Well, and then also for the longest time, I thought I was too short, you know. But it's really it's interesting how. But of course, now we're able to look back with today's lens. I mean, back then, a lot of Asian actors really, we were going for roles that we didn't want, but what else is there? You're an actor.
Yeah.
You want
Absolutely. Yeah.
you want to make a living, and those were the type of roles that were only available to us.
Yeah.
And
Gosh.
it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly has changed a lot, but I can't even imagine how difficult it was in your time and just back then, because even currently,
Yeah.
I'll get
So
to
frustrating.
Youngmi's point, like I feel very grateful that I get acting auditions like presented to me, and I have the opportunity to be in the room. But sometimes these roles, like, they'll be leading type roles, but they'll open it to anyone, and immediately I find my brain going like, there's just no way they're gonna cast an Asian guy as
Right.
the lead, like, unless it's specified. There's just no chance. But I have to like shake that, because it's just like, it's just ingrained in me. And I mean, I think with your performance and with this film, I think it's a huge step in the right direction to like shake off like these old ghosts.
Yeah, and then also, what's really interesting with what the Daniels have done with this movie, it's also changed how we look at the leading man. You know, because Waymond is not your typical leading man. You know, and
No.
it's really interesting too because we have we've been we're so used to what masculinity looks like for the longest
Such a great
time.
point.
It's always measured by how big your biceps are or how much weight you can lift.
Right.
And
so funny.
I mean, honestly, I mean, it should be there should be a variety of what the definition of what's masculinity should be expanded, and it should also include how big your heart is, how much love and respect and empathy you give to one another. That's also very masculine to me.
I love that.
Yes.
And if we were to expand the parameter of what it means to be masculine, then we open up a ton of opportunities for everybody, for a lot of people,
I love that. Yeah. I think your character specifically really touched a lot of my friends and people that I've talked to. And I really like how you put that, because art and, movies are a way to sort of, what's like uphold what we value in our society. Right. And so if we're seeing muscly, like gun guys like shooting from a helicopter all the time, it's like we're like uplifting those kind of like people, and it's like we should be looking at other types of humans, like in not just a masculine way, but we should really realize that by making films and putting people in the center of these films, that's like what we're gonna like look up to and respect.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, Waymond is certainly it's a very nuanced and quite frankly, I think a very wonderful take on masculinity, because as you stressed before, it's just leading with kindness, and it's not so one-dimensional like most of these. Granted, these Marvel films are great, but like they're all the same, like very just huge biceps, and then you have the other types of masculinity, which like Batman, like brooding and really dark. But Waymond is a beacon of light, and I just keep thinking like, damn, if Kumail Nanjiani had seen this before he went full Marvel. Just kidding.
He
just
got
jokes.
Really ripped up. He looks great.
Just jokes. Just jokes. Key, were you? Was any part of you nervous for this role, because it had been so long since you had you taken you went behind the camera, and then you suddenly are a leading man in this film? Like, were you nervous?
Oh, are you kidding? Absolutely. Absolutely. When they offered me this amazing opportunity to play Waymond, first I was really happy. It was the best phone call I've gotten in a long, long time. Then when that settled in, I was so nervous because I haven't acted in more than 20 something years. So I to prepare myself, I got a lot of help. I hired an acting coach, a dialogue coach, a voice coach, because I wanted the different versions of Waymond to sound differently. And then I hired a body movement coach.
That.
So Earth Waymond, Tax Waymond, and CEO Waymond and Alpha Waymond, if you look at it, it walks a little different. So I surrounded myself with a lot of help. And I was really nervous. And even on the first day of shooting, I was sitting in front of Jamie Lee Curtis. Behind me was Michelle Yeoh. To my left was James Hong. And I looked at him, I go, oh, these are all legendary actors. What the hell am I doing here? And I was so nervous. After that first shot, I walked up to the Daniels and I said, is there anything you want me to change? Was I good enough? I'm like, I'm so nervous. And they go, no, you were perfect, And then they move on to the next shot. And it was not until one day when I finished a shot, and Jamie Lee Curtis is always She's never in her trailer. She's always by the monitors watching.
Mm.
And she saw it and she came up to me. She gave me a big hug and she says, Key, that was freaking incredible. And for me to get that praise from her, here is a multi-award winning actress who's been in the business for 40 years. And she said it with such, honesty. And she's a genuine person. She always tells you what she thinks.
Yeah.
And so to hear that from her, oh wow, it meant so much to me. And I walked on set the next day with full confidence, and that's how I ended up, finished the entire movie. But yeah, I mean, to say I was nervous is an understatement because it's such a huge role. I've never gotten a role like this before. It's such a big role, and I'm not playing one character. I'm playing 3 versions of this character.
Right.
Sometimes, I guess because I was so hungry when it was offered to me. I'm watching. I saw the movie again the other day, and I was thinking, wow, had I really thought about it, what I was going to do, I would be so scared. I don't think I could have done it, but I was just so hungry. I wanted to act so bad. After, this was something I didn't decide lightly. This was a conversation that my wife and I had for over a year, whether I should decide to get back into acting or not. And I because this is not about me anymore. It's about us, and it would change our lives, And it was also one of those things where, one of the most difficult thing about being an actor is, you face many, many rejections. You go in and you audition, and you get rejected again and again and again and again. And if you're in your late teens and early 20s, you're so young. You got the entire road ahead of you. You're ambitious. You should try everything. But as a middle-aged man, to face that kind of rejection, I didn't even know what to expect. But one thing that I didn't know was that if I didn't give it a try, I would regret it come, later in life when I look back and I go, why wasn't I brave enough to go down this road where I truly wanted it for many, many years. And we talked about it. And finally, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I called an agent friend the next day and I said, would you please meet with me? I got something I want to talk to you about. We met up for lunch. And I said, I'm thinking about getting back to acting. And he says, great. And I said, I don't have an agent. Will you be my agent? And this is after more than 25 years with no agent. And he says, I'd love to. And I was like, wow. I was so relieved that I have an agent now. I didn't even think much. I was like, oh, wow, okay, so that first step is getting an agent. I've accomplished that.
Right.
And then I was expecting to not hear from him for 6 months. I was totally prepared to not hear from him for a long, long time. And then 2 weeks later, exactly 2 weeks later, I get a call about this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Wow.
And they said, Michelle Yeoh stars in it. And there's a lead role. You play her husband. And again, this goes back to how we never think we are qualified to play, one of the leads. And I go, no way, there's no way I'm gonna get this. And my wife says, just go in an audition. And I go, really? It's freaking Michelle Yeoh, and this is, I haven't done this for more than 20 years. And so my agent says, do you want to go in an audition? And I was so nervous, and I go, yeah, sure. I mean, why not? What's there to lose? I've already decided. And more than anything else, too, I didn't want to. This was the first audition he called me, and I didn't want to say no because I thought he was gonna fire me.
Right.
I said okay. And then when the Daniels found out that I was gonna go and audition for them, they sent over the script.
Wow.
And I read the script. I saw Swiss Army Man, the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was blown away by the talent.
Mm-hmm.
And that script, I laughed so hard and I cried so hard because it was a script I wanted to read. Anyway, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And here I am talking to you about me playing this role. So it's incredible.
Yeah, it's very moving. I was reading about that because I think for us as the audience, the people that know you as an actor, we were like, well, I think for a lot of Asian people on our end, we were like, well, where did he go? Do you know what I mean? So it was like, it's really sad to think about it because it's like, you were like, well, why can't I do this? And then on the other end, we were here like looking for you, kind of. Do you know what I mean? Which I think is very.
Oh my
touching.
gosh, you know,
Yeah.
many years, you know, I would, there would be it's like these articles about where have they been,
Yeah.
where are they now, and I was here the whole time.
Yeah.
That is really just. I don't know.
I'm so bad at. I'm so bad at these interviews. I've been.
No.
Yeah.
No apologies. I feel like a mix of things. Like, hearing your story of how, you decided to return to acting. You called your agent and you got this script. It almost. This is so corny, but it's like the stars aligned. This was divine intervention. Like, this was divine timing, and this was meant to be. And in that sense, my heart is so full, and I'm so happy that this came to be for you. And I can't think of anyone else as Waymond but you. But then conversely, it does sadden me in that, I see your story as one of perseverance and just being true to yourself and being committed, because so many, again, like, there's just so many external variables and circumstances that were beyond your control. Right. And as you stated, like, you've been here, you've always been there. It's just the industry at large, it just took a long time for them to catch up and get with it. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's just it's incredibly inspiring. And as a creative myself, like, so much rejection, and just I love hearing stories like yours, because it's just motivation for me to keep going. And so I think
it's really incredible too, because I've auditioned so many times, I didn't get anything. Not even there was one audition that I remember before I stepped away from acting, and it was for a role, for Viet Cong role. Didn't have a name. 3 lines. I walked in the room, and there were 30 other Asian actors waiting to read for the same role, this tiny role.
Wow.
And that's what it was like back then. And this was after maybe a year that I have not gotten a single audition, you know? And here I am, flash forward to 2019, have an audition in more than 25 years. First audition for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I thought I did really well. Felt really good about it. Didn't hear from the Daniels for 2 months.
Oh gosh.
2 months. Oh. And as you know, as an actor yourself, Brian, 2 months is a long time. Like, any hope of you landing this role is completely gone.
Oh yeah. Like, it's gone at that point. 2 months is adios.
Right? 2 months. I was like, come on, 2 months. It's like, there's no way I even stand a chance of landing this role. And then, as I've already moved on, and calling my agent and say, what else is out there? I got a call from the Daniels again, and and my agent said they want to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in there and auditioned for them for the second time.
Oh, nice.
That I did really well. Was super happy with my audition. I walked out the room, and there was another Asian actor waiting to read for the same role. And he was tall, he was better looking, he was in a suit. His
Was it
hair.
Steven Yeun?
No, I don't remember who. I don't remember who it was. Because after an audition, you're really nervous, so you don't.
Right,
You don't,
right.
Yeah.
You're not even like.
you kind of
Yeah.
you kind of scan the room just to see if there are any other Asian actors,
Right.
in contention, and there was, and he looked like
Wow.
he looked like he was on the cover of the GQ magazine, and I was like, okay, if I'm the Daniels, I would offer him that role, not me. So
No.
I drove home, called my agent, and I said, listen, man, I tried so hard, but I don't think I'm gonna get it. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
I tried everything. I wanted it so bad. And then, of course, the first week went by. I didn't hear from them. So it kind of solidifies what I was thinking, because
Right.
second week went by, nothing. Then the third week, I got that call, and it was the happiest call I've ever gotten in my life. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like stressful, but it, like what Brian said, I feel like this was like very much meant to be, which kind of falls in line with the plot of the movie, like the timeline. Can I just say one thing that I thought was a little sad when you were talking about Jamie Lee Curtis? In my mind, I feel like you are on par with Jamie Lee Curtis as an actor, like at your work, and so it made me feel kind of like. It kind of, a part of me, I felt like, oh man, I think this is kind of like our conversation in the beginning, like the outside perception, not meeting, in how you think about stuff. I was just like, wow, like in my view, I think you're neck and neck with Jamie Lee Curtis, but obviously.
Well, you're sweet. You're very kind. You're very kind. I'm nowhere compared to Jamie Lee Curtis nowadays. And then of course James Hong, who is getting his star.
Oh my goodness!
On the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I mean, my gosh, I'm so happy.
Legend.
Much.
Oh yeah, absolute legend.
And he's great. He's so funny. Oh my God, I love working with him. He's a man, 93 years old, and his passion for acting has not waned at all. His passion. He's still pursuing like he was when he was like in his 20s. It's incredible, and this man deserves everything, all the awards. I mean, honestly, he started in the 1950s. When I started in the 1980s, if it was bad for me, can you imagine how bad it was for him?
Oh yeah,
I can't imagine. And he does have such a quiet brilliance too. He's just so solid as an actor. There's like so much internal stuff that it's just like funny, and you can't even explain why, but it's just like how he's like so smart. I have this like one thing that I really wanted to say, and I told Brian that I was gonna say it, so I'm gonna say it in the interview. I thought that I was thinking about your struggles with the acting industry and your life, and how we were both saying this feels like very much meant to be. I think that I was just like thinking about like the plot and the ideas behind the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, and like how it sort of aligns with like your story, like I couldn't help but just think, these like little things that change your life, just like, and then you go off this different path, and like just thinking about, like what you were saying, like there were no roles for you, and you're such a great actor, and like what could have been, and things like that. But I think,
but I feel like everything had to, in my life, everything had to happen in the order it did for this very special movie to happen. And life, a full life is a life full of ups and downs, peaks and valleys, because that's what makes a beautiful landscape. You can't have all the good without the bad. You don't know how good sweet tastes like unless if you taste, the sour. So I wouldn't change a thing. And honestly, and being an actor, that's, that's how it is. I mean, it's not just the acting profession, but in life general.
Right.
It's okay. You have to embrace all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love
This is
that.
very
I love
inspiring.
that.
And I just want to say that I know that you're running out of time because I heard that you had 45 minutes, but should we go on to the quick fire, or
Let's
are
do
you
it.
out of time? Okay.
Quick fire. Every time I hear quick fire, I'm not very good with these questions. Okay.
They're just about your feelings. So just like however you're feeling. Yeah. Should be fun.
Okay, Key. We want to learn a different side of you now. So, Key, what is something that you're loving right now?
What is something I'm loving right now?
Yeah.
I'm every single day I'm still processing how this moment came to be. Ever since our movie came out, I'm in a very happy place. When people say they're on cloud 9, I'm on cloud 10. I'm on cloud 11. I'm 12. I'm so happy. You have no idea. And really, I wanted this. I wanted to be in a movie like this for a long, long time. So I'm enjoying every minute of it. So I'm in a good place. Yeah.
So loving life. That's a great answer.
I love it. Conversely, what is something that you're hating right now?
Well, the world have gone through a lot in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And what I'm hating right now is all the anger directed toward the AAPI community. So if our movie can teach anybody anything, it's love and empathy. I wish everybody treats. Next question. But I mean, watching those videos on the news, it's very tough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, but I'm glad you brought that up. And I mean, that's the impact of great art, and with performances like yours, that I think you should be very proud of that, because I think a lot of people will leave the film and seeing Waymond with a little bit more empathy and tenderness in their hearts. And I certainly felt that way. So
it's very humanizing.
And Key, this is the last question that we like to leave all of our guests. And
I'm glad it's last question, because this is a tough one for me. So okay.
Yeah.
What is something that you're proud of?
This movie. I'm so proud of Everything Everywhere All at Once. All the hard work that went into making this movie. The Daniels, they wrote this amazing script. The crew, the entire crew, from our DP to all the production assistants that helped on this movie, all the background actors. You can't make a movie without all of them. And of course, not only do we have amazing performances, with, from Michelle Yeoh, Jamie Lee Curtis, James Hong, our daughter, Stephanie Sue, Jenny Slate, Harry Shum Jr., everybody, but I'm so proud of what we have done with this movie in that short amount of time, with that tight budget. You couldn't have made this movie if it without passion for this art. For the Daniels, for the script, for yeah. So I'm very proud of this. This is something that I'm, I can't say enough about how lucky I am, how grateful I am for this amazing opportunity, and to the audience who came out and support our movie. You gotta understand, it's so hard to get a movie like this made in Hollywood. And for our story, it's original, but it's outrageous, it's crazy, it's never been seen before. And for the audience to embrace it and support it in the movie theater, I couldn't say more. I mean, I'm so thankful every day.
Woo!
Oh, well, I'm so proud of this movie. I'm so proud of this movie just because I'm Asian and I have nothing to do with it, but I'm like so proud of everyone's work. And I have to tell you that while I was watching the movie, even though I think it's literally the best movie ever and it's so spectacular, I was thinking like, how did they get this movie made? Like so I was feeling like what you were saying too, like I was like, I'm so glad that they made this movie, but I can't believe, part of me is like,
totally.
wow, I can't believe that.
We live in a time where everything is a reboot of a reboot, or it's like an adapted screenplay. But the whole time I was watching, I'm like, this is so ambitious and so out there, and I love how risky it is, and I love that it got produced and it got made. So.
And it's about a Chinese family. It's about an Asian American family.
Yeah.
How great is that? And yeah, this is a rarity. And I hope it's not. One day it's not a rarity. It's not an anomaly, but this is the norm. So.
Absolutely. And. Whew,
yeah.
Well,
it's great.
Key, thank you so much for your vulnerability on this podcast and for sharing your story. And I'm so excited to see, future projects that you'll be involved with. And for our listeners out there, where can they find you and your work online?
On what do you mean? Like social media? What do you mean?
Yeah, social media.
Yeah, I'm only on Instagram.
Okay.
And it's it's at Huy Quan. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on any other. But it's that's it. And please, to all you listeners, go out and watch our movie in the theater. Go and support it.
It'll be better.
That would mean so much to me.
We're gonna force them. If you listen to our podcast, you have to watch the movie, or else you're not allowed to listen anymore. I'm watching you. I'm serious. I'm losing your. Yeah.
And what about you?
Thank you for having me, Youngmi. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh! Please, no. This is like you really made our lives. Really, this is so great.
So invigorating.
Yeah, let me just so my socials are YM Mayer or Youngmi Mayer on TikTok. How about you, Brian?
You guys can follow me on socials at It's Brian Park, and be sure to follow our socials for the podcast at Feeling Asian Podcast. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, YouTube, Patreon, blah blah blah. Most importantly, go see Everything Everywhere All at Once in theaters, or
most importantly.
Or you're not allowed to listen to this podcast anymore.
No.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.